In this video, we are going to discuss about two important application layer protocols, FTP and Telnet. If you want to transfer a file from one computer to another, which is the one of the most common task expected from a networking or internetworking environment. We all know that the greatest volume of data exchange in the internet today is due to file transfer. So, in this video, we are going to discuss application protocol involved in transferring file. That is file transfer protocol. In short, it is FTP. File transfer protocol is a standard mechanism provided by TCP/IP for copying a file from one host to another. Although transferring a file from one system to another seems simple and straightforward, but there we will have some problem. First, we will see about it. For example, the first problem is that two systems may use different file naming conventions, or the two systems may have different way to represent text and data, or the two systems may have different directory structures. So all these problems have been solved. It is solved by FTP in a simple and elegant approach. Here FTP differs from other client server application because in this protocol it establishes two connections between the host. One connection is used for data transfer and the other is used for control informations. So the separation of command and data transfer makes FTP more efficient. The control connection uses very simple rules of communications. We are going to transfer only a line of command or line of response at a time. That is, we are not going to transfer both at the same time. Either you will transfer a command or you are going to receive a response. The data connections, on the other hand, need more complex rule because we have varieties of data types need to be transferred. However, the difference between the control information and data transfer will be known only to the FTP, not to TCP. According to TCP, both the connections are treated the same. Here FTP use two well-known TCP port. For control connection, it uses port 21. For data connections, port 20 is used. So we will have a small example that we know that we will have a FTP client and FTP server using port 21. The control connection is established. So for that, the server will request the client to log in using password. The client will send the corresponding username and password to the server, and the server will verify. After the verification, it permit the client to uh, either to transfer or to receive the file. For example, we will take one type of file is PDF format. So the PDF format can be transmit from server to client. We used to call it as downloading a file, or from client to server, it is known as uploading a file using the TCP port 20. So for these two connections, the client has three components and server has two components. The client's three components are user interface, client control process, and the client data transfer process. The server's two components are the server control process and the server data process. As name denotes, the control connection is made between the client and server using the control process, and the data connection is made between the data transfer process. The control connections remains connected during the entire session. That is, after the successful completion of connections, the controls once you have connected the control, the connection is going to exist. But the data connection will be opened and closed for each file transfer. It opens each time commands that involved transferring. When you send a command that you're going to transfer the file, it will be opened, and it closes when the file transfer completed. In other words, when a user starts an FTP session, the control connection opens. When our FTP session starts, the control connection is open, but the data connections can be opened and closed multiple times if several files are transferred. It can be opened and it can be closed. It can be opened and it can be closed. So like we are going to have two pipes. One is control pipe and the other one is data pipe. At the time of our FTP session, when our session is going to start, the control connection will be established, and it will be established. The pipe will be opened until the session completes. It is not going to be closed. But the case of data connection is you can close and open multiple times. Whenever you are going to see the command, that is, you are going to transfer the file, it will be open. When it is closed, it will be closed. When the operation is completed, it will be closed. So now we will have a little bit detailed view of control connections and data connections. In control connections, as I have told previously, we will have a line of command or a line of responses. It can be represented using a 7-bit ASCII character set. And we all know that either you can send one command or one response, not both at the time. So it may be a line of command or line of response. The terminations or the end of line can be indicated using two characters, that is character return and line feed. So we all know that control connection is going to be established only one time for each session, but you can have multiple times. You can send comment and response. It is going to be represented as lines, and each character set is going to be represented using 7-bit ASCII character sets. In order to represent the end of token, we are using two characters. One is carriage return and the other one is line feed. But the purpose of data connection is different from that of control connections, because we want to transfer a file through data connections. file transfer occur over the data connections under the control of command set over the control connections. You are going to transfer file only using data connections, but based on the command using the control connections. Clear? So here we are, the file is going to be transferred using the data connections. However, we should remember that file transfer in FTP means only three possible different things can happen. We will see one by one. The first one is a file is going to be copied from server to the client. You are going to copy a file from server to the client. So this is called as retrieving a file. So I have told for each transferring of data, we are going to have a control command. If you want to copy a file from server to client, then we need to have it is going to be done under the supervision of the command known as RETR. That is a control command. Okay. So RETR is your control command, and in data connections, you are going to transfer the file from server to the client. The next thing is a file is to be copied from the client to the server. That is opposite process. So in this case, it is called as storing a file, which is going to done under the supervision of STOR command. The last case is a list of directory or file name. List of directory name, or it may be a list of file name sent from the server to the client. So it is going to be done under the supervision of the command known as LIST. So we are in data connections. You can only do three different things. Either you can copy a file from server to client, we call it as retrieving a file, or you can copy a file from client to server. In this case, we used to tell it as storing a file. And the last one is a list of either a directory name or file name will be sent from server to the client. So here it is known as retrieving a list. So next we are going to see each and every time when you want to transfer a file, then client must define what is the type of the file to be structured, what is the structure of the data is used, and what type of transmission mode is used. So before sending the file through data connections, we need to prepare for transmission through the control connections. So this problem is resolved by three attributes of communications. The first one is file type, data structure, and transmission mode. So we will see one by one. So FTP transfer one of the following file types across the data connections. It may be an like ASCII file or EBCDIC file or image file. The ASCII file is a default format for transferring a text file where each character is encoded using a 7-bit ASCII. The sender transforms the file from its own representation into ASCII characters, and the receiver transforms the ASCII character to its own representation. But if we are using the EBCDIC encoding, then the file can be transferred using this EBCDIC encoding. EBCDIC file, if you are using, then you have to use its corresponding encoding format. And the last one is the image file. Image file is the default format for transferring the binary files because it has to be sent as a continuous stream of bits without any interpretations or encoding. This is mostly used to transfer binary files such as compile program. So the next one is data structure. So again, data structure, we have three different structures. One is a file structure, the next one is record structure, and the last one is page structure. In the file structure, the file is going to be in the format of stream of bytes. Everything is going to be look like a stream of bytes. In the record structure, the file is going to be divided into records. But if you are using the record structure, then it can be used only for text files. And the last one is the file can be divided into pages, and where each pages should have a page number and page header. The pages can be stored and accessed either randomly or sequentially. And the last attribute is transmission mode. So we have we have three different types. One is stream mode, the other one is block mode, and the last one is compressed mode. The stream mode is the default mode where data are delivered from FTP to TCP as a continuous stream of bytes, and it is the responsible of TCP for chopping the data into segment of appropriate sizes. So here the to convert into segment, it is going to be done by TCP. But in block mode, data can be delivered from FTP to TCP into blocks. For each blocks, we have a 3-byte header. The first 2 byte is called block descriptor. The next 2 byte defines the size of the block, and it is going to be represented in bytes. And the last one is compressed mode. If the file is too big, then the data can be compressed. Here they are using the one of the compression method known as run length encoding. So we all know that in this method, if we have a consecutive appearance of data unit, then it can be replaced by one occurrence and number of repetitions. Only one occurrence and number of repetitions. So these are the three different modes of transmissions. So we all know that to transfer a file, we need to have three attributes. The first one is file type, the next one is data structure, and the last one is transmission mode. In each type, we have three different cases. Normally, when you used to transmit the file using FTP, then we used to provide the username and password After the successful login, you can start to transfer the file, which we have seen previously in this video. But in some sites, we have a set of files which is available for public access to enable anonymous FTP. So to access this file, the user does not need to have an account or password. Instead, the user can use anonymous as the username and guest as the password. So we have seen in detail about FTP. And we all know that FTP is a file transfer protocol, which is one of the important application layer protocol, which helps to transfer the file from one place to another. And here again we have a client to server connections, but only one difference is that we have here two connection. One is for control and the other one is for data. Normally the control connection is going to have only either a line of command or a line of response. In data connections, we can have different types of data can be transferred from client to server. Now we are going to see the next important application layer protocol known as Telnet. Normally in the internet, some set of users, they may want to run the application program at remote site, and they will create the results that can be transferred to their local site. For example, the students may want to connect their university computer lab from their home to access application program for doing homework, assignments or projects. The better solution is a general purpose client side program that lets a user to access any application programs on a remote computers. In other words, it may allow the user to log on to remote computer. After logging on, the user can use the services which are all available on the remote computer and transfer the result back to the local computers. So to support this, the application program known as Telnet, which can be abbreviated as terminal network. It is one of the general purpose client server application program. Uh, Here we have two things: time sharing environment and logging. We will discuss in detail about this. So this is what Telnet. In Telnet, you can access the remote systems from your computer, and you can use its application programs for many purposes. So here we'll see one by one. As I told you, the first one is time sharing environment. Uh, I think we had learned already about time sharing in our operating system. So, like here, Telnet was designed at a time when means most of the operating system, such as Unix, were operating in a time sharing environment. We all know that in such environment, a large computer supports multiple users. The interaction between a user and the computer occurs through a terminal, which is going to be usually a combination of keyboard, monitor, and a mouse. Even we can have a microcomputer can simulate a terminal with a terminal emulator. In a time sharing environment, the users are part of the system and all of them have some right to access the resources. For this, each authorized user has an identifications and probably a password. The user identification defines the user as a part of the system. So to access the system, the user logs into the system with user ID or a login name, and the system also includes password checking to prevent an unauthorized user from accessing the resources. When user logs into a local time sharing system, we used to call it as a local login. As a user types at a terminal or at the workstation running a terminal emulator, the keystrokes are accepted by the terminal driver. So the terminal driver then passes the characters to the operating system. The operating system then it interprets the combination of characters and invoke the desired application program or utility program based on the need of the user. This is the case of a time sharing environment. So we all know that here you are going to have many users. All of them are going to have some rights to access, and they will have a username and password in order to avoid the unauthorized user. And using the terminals, they are going to give some character using the keystrokes, which will be passed to the terminal driver. The terminal driver then send this character to the operating system. The operating system will interpret and find what type of application programs or utility program needed by the user. Based on it, it will invoke the program. The next case is if it is not in the same machine. Instead of that, if the user want to access an application program or a utility program which is located in remote machine, then again they want to perform a remote login. Here the telnet client and server program comes into the use. So in previous case, if you see, there is no need to have any telnet client or server because we are going to access in our local system. But if you want to use in a remote system, then we will have a program called as a telnet client program and telnet server program. Here again, the user sends the keystroke to the terminal driver. As in the previous case, again the keystroke is going to be sent to the terminal driver, which we have seen here. No, similarly here also going to be sent, and the terminal driver is also going to send to the operating system. But in this case, the operating system, after accepting the character, it will find the meaning. But here, the operating system is going to just accept the character, but it is not going to interpret because it is not come to the system where it resides. The instruction or the application program which is not going to be accessed in the system. So in this case, it is going to just accept, but it is not going to interrupt them. So instead of that, it will send the characters to the telnet client where we have some universal character set. Later on, we will see in detail about which we call it as network virtual terminal characters. And after converting to the universal character set, it will be transferred in TCP/IP protocol stack. So the comment or text in NVT, that is network visual terminal format, is going to travel through the internet, and then it will be arrive at the TCP/IP stack here. It will be arrive at the TCP/IP stack at the remote machine. Here then the characters are going to be delivered to the operating system, and then it is going to be passed to the telnet server, which changes the characters to the corresponding character understandable by that remote computer. However, The characters cannot be passed directly to the operating system because the remote operating system is not designed to receive characters from a telnet receiver. It is not going to be directly sent to the install of that. It is designed to receive characters only from a terminal driver. We all know that operating system is designed because it is going to always it will receive the characters from the terminal driver. So it cannot receive the even then after converting to the character which are needed to the system, it is not going to transfer directly to the operating system. So because operating system can receive the characters only from the terminal driver. So here for this we are going to add one small solution, a piece of software which we call it as pseudo terminal driver, which pretend that this pseudo terminal driver is going to pretend like the characters are coming from the terminals. So they after then it will be passed to the operating system, and as usual the operating system will interpret and it will invoke the corresponding application program. So I think you all understand the difference and similarities between when you access the when you invoke the application program in your site and in the remote site. So like here again in your site the characters are going to be received by your terminal driver, and then it will be sent to operating system. It will interpret and it will invoke the application program. But this is not the case in remote. uh, when you want to access the program in remote site, so as I told you, this is going to be handled by a telnet client and telnet server. So telnet client when it will accept the character from your operating system and convert into the general format, one uniform format which we call it as nvt, and then it will be sent through the tcp ip stack. Again, it will be traveled in internet and it will reach your remote site. In the remote site, the character will be received by telnet server, and then it will be converted to the corresponding character format, which is understand by the operating system, which is located in the remote system. But as we all know that operating system can receive character only from the terminal driver, we are going to add a piece of software which we call it as pseudo terminal driver, which is going to behave or act like that it receives the character from the terminal and it's sent to the operating system, and then it will invoke the corresponding application programs. Okay, so we all know that the mechanisms, if you want to access the remote computer, it will be very complex because every computer and its operating system accepts a special combinations of character as tokens. For example, if you are running a DOS operating system in your computer, then the end of file token will be control Z. If it is the Unix operating system, then the end of token will be recognized as control D. So we are dealing with heterogeneous system. So if you want to access any remote computer in the world, first we must know what type of computer we will be connected to, and we must also install the specific terminal emulator used by that computer. It will be a tedious task. So to avoid this, Telnet easily solved this problem by defining a universal interface called Network Virtual Terminal Character Set. Via this interface, the client telnet transfer the character that come from the local terminal into NVT form, which I have already discussed with you. And similarly, delivers them to the network. The server telnet, on the other hand, translate the data and command from NVT form into a form which is acceptable by its computer, that is the remote computer. So we will have a little view about NVT character set. We know that what is NVT character set, because or else each and every time when you connect with the remote computer, you need to uh, implement or a network emulator. To avoid this, Telnet define a uh, universal interface called as network virtual terminal character sets. In network virtual terminal character set, NVT uses two sets of characters, one for data and the other for control. Both data and control is going to be represented using 8-bit bytes. For data, NVT is an 8-bit character set in which 7 lowest order bytes are same as ASCII, and the highest order bit is 0. But to send control characters between computers, NVT uses 8-bit character set in which the highest order bit is set to 1. That is, in order to differentiate the um, two sets, if the highest order bit is 0, then we know that it is a data, and if the highest order bit is 1, then we know that it is going to be a control. So here I have shown some set of control characters. So like if you enter file, then the corresponding 8-bit character. But here again, all the highest order bit is going to be 1 in order to indicate that it is a control bit. So for example, if you have a DM, it means a data mark. NOP means it denotes that no operations. If easy means it means that erase character. EL means it tells that erase the line. So Telnet uses only one TCP connections, uh, and the port is known as 23. That is that too. Telnet uses one TCP connections, but here again, what happens means if the server uses the TCP port is 23, and client can use any temporary port. The same, not like FTP where we need to have two different ports, but here the same connections can be used for sending both data and control characters. And as I told you, to differentiate this, if the highest order bit is 0, then it indicates that data, and if the highest order bit is 1, then it indicates that control. However, uh, two distinct, like for example, let me take one small example. So if you are transferring a file, for example cat file, uh, instead of typing cat file 1, if you are typing it as cat file A, normally in local computer we used to press the backspace and we used to remove it, but it is not possible in remote computer. For this case, here we are going to include a sequence of control character called as uh, interrupt as control. So which I have defined here. It means that here you have a cat file A, but we know that this A has to be replaced. It cannot be done as easy like our local computer. So here you're going to the interrupt as control. It indicates that the next character is going to be our control character. And the next one is easy. I have told that easy means erase the character. Then it will erase A, and the next character will be appended. One will be appended to it. So for this case, we are using interrupt as control. So that's all. In Telnet, we know that you are going to access the remote computer, and we have seen how it will be done in our local computer. and similarly how it is executed in our remote computer. Thank you.